If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined now by Kevin Reynolds, Utah Jazz beat writer for the Salt Lake Tribune. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for coming on the air. We appreciate it. And I will say that you're the Jazz beat writer now. You used to be the BYU beat writer. Has it struck you how odd it is that you really have a front row seat to the AJ Dybantsa show?
Yeah, I just keep following around, I feel like, at this point. I mean, also went down to Utah Prep his high school year, so, it's been basically 3 years of this at this point.
Kevin Reynolds, stalker.
Yeah, and so you were back there. What was it like? Take us inside as to how the things worked.
Yeah, well, really anticlimactic. I mean, I know on the show they go from 14-1, and they also take the break where you didn't know if the Jazz were going to get 1 through 4. But there, it's just they start 1 through 14, and it takes about like 5 minutes. So it's really there's no anticipation. It just went Washington Wizards. You knew that within a minute, and then the Jazz were next, and you knew that within 30 seconds of the Wizards. So I mean, in that sense, it was quick, and really there was just you took the note, and then that was it. That the Jazz were going to go number 2, and then you go talk to Austin Ainge about what he's going to do. But the really interesting part about that room was, for a team that has never had any draft lottery luck with their own pick, basically won the lottery twice because the Jazz get the second pick, and then they draw the lottery balls again for the third pick, and the Jazz won it again. And so they had to redraw, obviously give it to Memphis. And, Austin Ainge was so excited, I feel like, in that room that really nobody has any reactions to. I mean, Washington won the first pick, and I do not think there was even a smile from Washington's side, but Austin, had an audible yes, was fist pumping in the air when the Jazz won, and even reached over to Memphis's GM and gave him a fist bump when they won the third pick. So I think there was a lot of excitement for the Jazz because finally, something goes right in that room for them, and also now they have a ton of options for the future.
Yeah.
For the next 10 years for what they actually want to do.
So you're in the room. So you had to give up your phone, right? Because they want this super secret. And then they keep you in the room for how long after this? Because they want the show to be a surprise.
Yeah, it's like an hour and a half because the actual drawing happens at 1 local, but the television show doesn't happen until 2. And obviously the television show takes forever till like 2:30 to actually announce all the picks. So you're really just in there. And the actual drawing takes 5 minutes. So for the next like hour and 25 minutes, you're just standing around, and all the people who are representatives, whether they're GMs, whether they're whoever they sent, whoever the team sent, they're just kind of mingling about. So for the teams that didn't win anything, obviously they're explaining away what happened or trying to make sense of it themselves. And then for a guy like Austin Ainge, he's in there, just kind of his first reaction, his authentic reaction to what they're going to do at number 2. So it's a really long time to just be sitting there waiting for something to happen or just to leave with no phone, no anything, and really no contact with the outside world.
So you saw him be excited. Did you see others be disappointed?
He was really the only one who had a reaction. I mean, it wasn't like there was some big reaction for the Pacers. It wasn't like really anything like that. I didn't really – even Washington did have a reaction, which is also what made the Austin the Austin fist pump I think so interesting because and also this was his first time in the room.
Yeah.
You know, like this, the Jazz have sent the one funny story I think from Austin that he told us was that he went around, and since he's only been on the job for less than a year, he was like, who wants to do this? Who wants to go and be the representative? And pretty much everybody else on the Jazz has been the representative, and it's been a failure. You know, Ryan Smith, Justin Bennett, Danny Ainge, his own father, you know, like he talked about that. And so for him, like I thought the reaction was so genuine to actually winning the lottery for a team and a franchise that has been so disappointed, losing so much over the last 4 years and have so many battle scars at this event. But yeah, like it wasn't like there was a huge sigh or, you know, anything like that for teams that it didn't go well in. Definitely a very different feeling than you see on the actual television show. And I think people do have authentic reactions to not winning.
Well, I wouldn't have blamed the Pacers if they had a negative reaction because that was bad. I wouldn't have blamed the Kings either. It wasn't as bad as the Pacers, but those two definitely had bad luck in the draft lottery. I'm curious, with under 85 minutes to kill in the room, did you get to talk to Austin much? And if so, what did he have to say?
Yeah, no, definitely talked to him for, you know, probably 20 minutes, honestly, just because what else are you going to do?
Right.
And so, no, but the interesting part for me was that he didn't rule out almost anything on the table. I mean, even AJ Dybantsa, who obviously I would imagine it will be the number one pick, but, you know, he had the quote to us saying essentially he doesn't think Washington has made up their minds and they haven't made up their minds. So, you know, anything is really on the table for this pick. And he's not looking at it. I mean, I know there's an opportunity here, and everybody in Salt Lake believes that this is a playoff team next year, or at least will push for the playoffs next year on some level after you made the Jaren Jackson trade and you have Larry Marketing, Keontae George, Ace Bailey. But he doesn't look at this pick, or at least this is what he said yesterday. He doesn't look at this pick as adding to a playoff team or, you know, filling a hole or a need in this playoff roster for the next 5 years. He looks at this pick as a kind of a 10-year investment, and hopefully this player becomes either the best player or one of the best players that the Jazz have on this team for the next 10 years, and maybe he can, you know, be a guy who could carry a franchise himself the day after, you know, Lowry Marketing and Jaren Jackson and kind of this phase and this iteration of the Jazz either makes a deep playoff run or, you know, whatever happens with this thing. So, you know, I think those are the skill sets he's looking at. The other interesting part, talking to him, is that this decision I don't think is going to be made about just a body of work of college. You know, where Darren Peterson, obviously a lot of people have him going number 2. We have talked a lot about the cramping issue and him sitting out of games. We've seen it front row with him playing half a game against AJ and BYU, was really good, then sits the last 16, 20 of that game. But, you know, this decision I think is going to be made, it's going to go beyond just 6 weeks of him sitting out of games. I think it's going to be going back to his days at Prolific Prep, where a lot of people had him as, you know, potentially the number one pick. So I think there's going to be a lot of phone calls to, you know, Chapel Hill and Lawrence and Durham, but also Provo too, because I don't think they've ruled out necessarily that AJ could be a Utah Jazz player in some capacity, depending on what Washington wants to do.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So,
What's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Yeah, and we've had the opportunity, and it's been fun to follow AJ up close at games and all that stuff and see what he's about. He seems like a solid kid. The family's involved, and it seems like, they enjoy it out here. You could speak to it because you've had a front row opportunity to speak to all those people about how much, and it's unusual. We used to hear, well, people don't want to come to Utah. AJ and his family came, and they seem to like it. It doesn't seem like it's that difficult for them just to tweak it a little bit by telling Washington, hey, this is really where we want to go. Go ahead and make a deal here. Do you think that, or what do you think their feeling is as far as the opportunity to stay in Utah if that's what they want? Not necessarily what the Jazz want, but that they want.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to them in the last 24 hours or really about the specific idea of them going to the Jazz and AJ playing for the Jazz. But overall, I think he is a rare prospect, to your point, that has spent a lot of time in Utah. 2 years is a lot of time. He's been at both levels in Utah. They chose to come to Utah in Utah prep and really took a huge gamble there. So, I mean, he does understand Utah, and I think he's liked his experience with Kevin Young. But the other part that I go back to is AJ has also really wanted to be the number one pick, and he said that he's wanted to be the number one pick basically since I've known him, since he was a high schooler. And the Washington Wizards have the number one pick. Now, what happens after that? I don't really know whether that means does he like Utah enough to try to get himself to Utah? I really don't know that answer, but I mean, the two things that I think AJ's been very consistent on since he's been here in college is that he wants to play in the NBA, but he also really feels like he deserves and wants to be the number one pick. Even when he was going to Kansas and played Derek Peterson, and it looked at that time like he maybe would be passed by Peterson for the number one pick. So to me, that's my first reaction to that. It's is there going to be any manipulation of the draft process or trying to, go to Utah? I don't think he'd be opposed to playing in Utah. I don't think that it would be one of those things. I just think it would be, it seems like it's been his goal for a very long time to hear his name first in the draft.
Kevin Reynolds joining us, Utah Jazz beat writer for the Salt Lake Tribune. You were the BYU writer. And you get to see a lot of stuff when you travel with the team and when you're there long before the game starts and all that. And I'm curious if you could look at some of the interactions that maybe you had a chance to see or some of the conversations you had when you're killing time before a game. How deep do you think the love affair runs between the Jazz and AJ? He's obviously very talented and he's obviously super likable. Can you tell to what level they have a real passion for this kid and his career and his potential?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I probably need to really fully report out now as it gets very real, because obviously this was going to be, there was a real chance that the Jazz just got the sixth pick, and AJ's not even in the conversation. But, for everything, I mean, AJ, going back to when he was a high school senior and he was going to Utah prep, and during that process, I mean, he's been a Boston Celtics fan for a long time, but he's also been aware of Danny Ainge and the Ainges for a long time, and so they have that connection. And now at obviously the Utah Jazz with Danny and Austin in the front office. At the time, it was only Danny. So I mean, there's just been a lot of weird for the Jazz and for BYU. There's been a lot of these weird connections with AJ and a lot of these weird touch points with AJ that have kind of continuously furnished this relationship and kept it going. I mean, even down to the NBA stuff with Kevin Young and Kevin Durant, who is AJ's favorite player? Who are the people that he looks up to? He's talking about Kevin Durant. Kevin Young happens to be the coach at BYU who coached Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and can get them on, FaceTime and talk to him about that. So there's always been these just weird connections that have always kind of brought the Dybantsas to BYU, to Utah Prep, to a the NBA and having those connections with the Utah Jazz. So it's just been kind of, I don't want to say it's been this forced relationship, but it's almost been this, like it always just keeps taking the next step forward. And also the Jazz have had a ton of chances to see AJ play because he's in Provo. Danny Ainge is front row at pretty much every single one of these BYU home games, right next to Brian Santiago, sitting right there watching AJ Dybantsa play. Also, he broke Danny Ainge's record. These are a lot of things that the relationship is there, the BYU connection is there. But ultimately, I do feel like this decision for the Jazz, they're either going to have to force their way into getting AJ with a trade or something like that, or they're going to have Washington just not want to pick them. I don't know how much this is really in their hands necessarily. If Washington is dead set on picking AJ, they do have the ability to do that now with the number 1 pick, and the Jazz have number 2. But I mean, the relationship has been there now for, this is going on a 3rd year of them having the best prospect in the world, either 4 hours or 1 hour away from the practice facility. So there's been plenty of time to develop that relationship.
Yeah, and plus they're going to move the practice facility down the south end. It's going to be closer to Provo. What you're saying, Kevin, is God wants AJ in a Jazz uniform. You don't want to say it, but I've got the seniority, so I'll say it, Kevin.
Well, yeah, you can say that. I can't get away with that now.
Wait another 30 years and you could say it too.
Kevin, you've just made a series of wise choices right there. I don't know. I'm really impressed with your brilliance.
Kevin knows me, and so he knows where I'm coming from. You got 6 weeks now. From a work perspective, what are you going to be doing to lead up to the draft? Because there's all sorts of possibilities for you. Yeah,
I mean, it starts now with the combine and talking to Boozer, Peterson, Wilson, and obviously AJ about are they meeting with Utah? What do those meetings look like? And also, who are they as people and basketball players? I think that's stuff we're going to be looking into, because the Jazz have a ton of options here to take. Taking AJ off the table, let's just say that Washington takes him. You have 3 completely different players essentially that you could build around and see what you want to do. Do you want to add a Darren Peterson and add this, in theory, really generational guard who can score? We've seen him when he's healthy score with the best of them, and that would, in my mind, make a lot of sense, because not just for the future, but also just in theory for what they're building right now. They have a ton of length. They have a ton of size. Walker Kessler, if they re-sign him, it goes Kessler, Markin, and Jaren Jackson Jr. But that guard line, adding another guard to help Keontae out, help Ace Bailey out, that would make a lot of sense just in terms of the next playoff push and whatever this iteration of the Jazz looks like. But you could also go the opposite route. You could almost have the, Cam Boozer, that would make some sense too, because he's playing, he gives you a little bit something different than what Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson can do, even if he is, helping out in the front court. And also you have the connection. You have the Boozer connection with the Jazz, and Carlos Boozer playing for the Jazz, now working for the Jazz. That makes a lot of sense. And Caleb Wilson, we've all seen him when he played here in the Delta Center for that scrimmage. He reminds me a lot of AJ in a lot of ways, in some of the ways he plays the game and his length. And you could just have, in theory, you could have a huge lineup out there defensively if you have Ace and Keontae even, but also Kessler and Markkanen, and then Wilson and then Jackson. So there's just so many ways they can take this, and I think that's the one thing that Austin Ainge said yesterday. One of the things is he said, getting a top 4 pick, even 2 or 4 or 3, or if it was 1, definitely changes the way they're going to approach this draft, and definitely is a big deal. If you land at 5, I think it's a much different thing. At 5, I think you're talking about Kingston Flemings and Keaton Wagler and a couple of other guys who, I'm not saying are bad players, but it's just a completely different ballgame in the top 4 in this draft. And the amount of ways you can mix and match this, I think, will be interesting. And I think it'll be up to the Jazz's preference in a lot of ways. But they said they want to take the best player at 2, the one, regardless of fit. So who is that, though? I think that's the next 6 weeks is who is actually that player for them.
Kevin, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us. Good luck with the dozens of stories that you will be asked to write. People have all kinds of bright ideas, not realizing there's still only 24 hours in your day.
Well, I appreciate it. I'll do my best.
How about Kevin Reynolds winning the lottery? You know, he didn't have to go through the 4 years of losing, and he gets on the beat now. Kevin, that's some smart thinking right there.
Yeah, February to now, I said, all right, I'm going to skip the rebuild. I'll just go to this.
Just walking into the Trib telling people how it's going to be. Good work, Kevin. Walk around like you own the place. What the heck?
Appreciate it, guys. See you.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Kevin Reynolds, Utah Jazz beat writer for the Salt Lake Tribune.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.